This is To the Point with Michael Williams.
Good morning. COVID-19, where are we? What do we do to protect ourselves against a surge in cases that once again puts communities like ours and the country on edge? My guest this morning, Palm Beach County Commissioner Mack. I began by asking, what's the county doing or poised to do? Again, our guest this morning. Sir, we appreciate you taking time to be with us. Answer the question, where are we? What are we doing? What are you ready to do?
Well, thanks for having me, Michael. Right now, we're at a different time in the county, where in the past week in the United States, over 1 million residents have tested positive for COVID-19. In the state of Florida, with over 50,000 positive cases, and in Palm Beach County, with over 3,300 cases. And as we're approaching the Thanksgiving holiday week, we have to be mindful to not continue to increase the COVID-19, which means that there are things that we need to do as a community to address the rise in COVID-19.
Talk about those things that you're wanting to do, and also the constraints you may feel because of state restrictions put on you, which we'll talk more about in a moment. Where are you in terms of what you are doing and what you'd like to be doing, but perhaps cannot?
Well, first of all, we do have the COVID education and compliance team, and we started sending out our COVID compliance team to go out, so in that way we can make sure that our businesses are operating according to our restrictions. And so what we're going to do is beef up the COVID education and compliance team. The second issue that we can do, which we haven't done, is we can impose a curfew in Palm Beach County. And we haven't done a curfew yet, but that's something that's on the table. The third issue that we can do is we can do business hours restrictions. As you know, earlier, we did have business hour restrictions, and so we can always bring those back. The fourth issue, which is restrictions on businesses that doesn't have a food operation. So we can reduce their capacity according to the governor's executive order. And then finally, which is for the capacity restriction for food places, which is restaurants, it's a little bit different because the governor's executive order provides restrictions in terms of what we can do. And it's very hard for us to meet those two restrictions that they've put in.
I was just calling up my list here, and we'll get to that in a moment. Of the restrictions you named, of the things where you have latitude, Commissioner Bernard, do you support all of those? And how soon do you think some of the things you talked about, curfew and the like, might go into effect? When are we going to get a next vote on that and a next look at that?
Well, you know, we had this week we had a meeting where we had two new commissioners, and so what we're going to do is probably right after the Thanksgiving holiday, our legal team is looking at what we can do, and then also to bring something in front of the commission, hopefully by the beginning of December. So watching the numbers, we haven't done a curfew yet, so I think that may be a last resort. But in terms of restricting hours of operation, that's something that we can do in order for us to make sure that we're addressing the rise in COVID-19.
No, go ahead, sir.
In regards to the capacity limitations, that's something that we can do for non-food establishments. And so we will take a look at that and see where are the problem areas, and then also how we can reduce capacity so in that way we do not have a rise in COVID-19 in those establishments.
Are the votes there to do the things you've talked about, and how do you weigh that against concerns from businesses that said, man, we've already been through tough times, we can't afford to throttle back even a little?
Well, these are tough times that we're making tough decisions, but what we will do is we will, if we have to put the restrictions in place, and what we hope that is that we can get the full commission to support us, so in that way we can be unanimous in terms of addressing the health, safety, and the welfare of our residents in the county.
Sir, let me ask you, there's been a lot of talk that there's a limit on what you can do. A group of mayors got together the other day. Palm Beach County was not part of that meeting, but Dan Gelber, former prosecutor, Democratic mayor, Miami Beach, along with other mayors throughout Florida got together, said, we're urging the governor for a statewide mask mandate, local government control over restrictions, restoring state testing to full capacity, and improving contact tracing. No response from the governor's office. In fact, Governor DeSantis hasn't spoken publicly about COVID in weeks now. Do you support everything the mayor said? What is your critique of what's happening in Tallahassee or not happening, and how it constrains you all if you see it that way?
Well, first of all, I served with Mayor Dan Gelber in Tallahassee, and he's a great mayor in his city. But what we're concerned about is local control, because what we hope is that Tallahassee doesn't tell us what to do in regards to how do we regulate the health, safety, and the welfare of our residents in Palm Beach County. So the governor's executive order in September did limit some of the local control. So what I do hope from the governor's office is that let us, as we did earlier, make decisions that are best for our residents in Palm Beach County. And, we do need to increase the contact tracing, some of the other things, but we believe that we need something that's specific for Palm Beach County, and so that way we can address our residents.
A statewide mask mandate, do you support it? Do you think there's support there for that call?
I think it's very hard to do a statewide mask mandate in Florida because we're like basically 7 different states. And so in order for us to address the needs of COVID-19, we have to let the local folks control what needs to be done. So for instance, in Palm Beach County, we have a countywide mask mandate, and that's important. And maybe some other areas in the state may not need it, but that's something that the governor can decide. But for us in Palm Beach County and in South Florida, because those were the areas that were hit the most by COVID-19, they should have the ability to control issues that impact their residents.
Sir, do you have the appetite do you in any way support going back to the kind of lockdown we saw last spring? Do you see any appetite for that at all on the Palm Beach County Commission? Even if you could enforce it, and given the governor's executive orders, you couldn't. But in terms philosophically, do you see or would you support going back to that?
I think it's very hard to go back to that because, we had gotten to a point where we had over a 13% unemployment rate in the county. We're balancing the health, safety, and the welfare of our residents and also the economy. So I wouldn't support for us to go back to a full lockdown of where we were. But what we do need is the help of our residents to help us address COVID-19. Let's depress COVID-19. Let's get to more of a 5% daily positive rate. So that way we can do the contact tracing. But it's really all in the help. Our residents have to help us in order for us to fight this virus.
Commissioner Bernard, speak to concerns that have been ongoing about COVID impacting minority communities more greatly, the Black community, other communities. What efforts are ongoing to try to mitigate that extraordinary impact we've seen here in the county?
Well, first of all, what's happened is COVID has it's decimated a lot of our small businesses. And so what we did in the county, we received over $263 million from the CARES funding. And so what we did was we allocated over $94 million for small business grants. And we were really bullish in terms of targeting our small businesses, which is our small, 2 to 3 workers or, less than 5 people who were getting those grants. So we tried to micro target to help our small businesses. We also provided testing throughout the whole county. And then also what we did was we provided rental assistance, mortgage assistance. And so these are the things that we did throughout the county to address the needs of our residents.
Sir, I want to ask you just very briefly before a final thought. The Sun Sentinel had reported recently that in the push to get masks out everywhere, and this is from the Sun Sentinel a few weeks ago, it's facing fresh scrutiny. The county over more than $11 million in contracts it awarded without competitive bidding to push those masks out. Do you have any concerns there, or are you happy that in terms of the need to expedite this, that it was all handled well and a good use of the money in that way? Without the
at that time when the decision was made to not do it through competitive bidding, there was like an emergency. But I believe that this is not the route that we need to do in the future because it's so important for us to go through the normal RFP process. So in that way, it's competitively bidded. So in that way, it's out in the open. So in that way, no one gets any head start in regards to addressing the needs for our residents. So this is something that I do not think that we should go and just give it to one person, but it should be bidded out.
Commissioner Bernard, your final overarching message to all of the community as we approach the Thanksgiving holiday about COVID, about precautions, and just your final words.
Well, first of all, we have so much to be thankful for. We have to be thankful for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And in regards to life, we have to, all of our residents in this county, we're urging our residents to not travel outside of the county. If you're going to gather, please gather at home and with people that live with you. And if you're going to do virtual celebrations, make it small. And of course, I'm big on fruits and vegetables, so please eat a lot of fruits and vegetables.
Commissioner Mack Bernard, Palm Beach County Commissioner, we thank you so much for being with us, sir. We wish you and yours a safe, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for your time and perspective.
Thanks, Michael. Take care.
All the best, sir. And still to come, our roundtable discussion. COVID, of course, dominating political talk and everything else when we come back.